As a small child, right around 3 years old, my mother abandoned me with a babysitter and left me. And I was kind of on my own and kind of fended for myself. I had to scavenger for food at a garbage can sometimes, and there was this cute old man that lived across the desert, and as a little girl it was a long ways away. And I'd trudge through this desert and he would give me a glass of milk with bread, and I'd break the bread up and put it inside the cup, and that was kind of my meal. And so finally one day the babysitter was moving and she turned me into the state. When I got to the orphanage, I was very malnourished and I had pneumonia and I was put into the hospital when I first got there and spent like a week or so in the hospital. When my adoptive family, my parents, came to the orphanage, my mother walked in the room and I saw her and I knew. I ran up to her and I wrapped my arms around her leg and I said, "Mommy, Mommy, please take me home." And I knew she was my mother. And so I had an amazing life, and I was grateful to have wonderful adoptive parents that have been very supportive. I always knew that my father was from India. As a little girl, I would dream sometimes that I was an Indian princess and somebody would come and rescue me. Not that I needed rescue, but you know how little kids are, you would just kind of dream that. And so I always thought I was like an Indian princess and that someday I would learn my Indian heritage. So my parents came to me and they said, "Denise, we think that it's time for you to maybe find your biological family. We're getting older and we want to remember the things that we remember to see if we can help you." They ended up finally calling this one phone number, and it ended up being my biological mother's brother, so it was my uncle. His name is Kevin. And they said, "Do you know a little girl named Denise?" And he says, "That's my sister's little girl, and we've been looking for her for years." And so I was able to find my biological mother. My sister had always just prayed and prayed that I would come looking for her, and so it was really emotional for her. She was the oldest, and she always just wondered what happened to her baby sister. And so it was really an emotional thing to be able to find them. As the story goes along, I kind of lived my life. I had 5 beautiful children. Always in the back of my mind, I just had this burning desire to find out about my Indian heritage. I just felt a connection to the Indian people. I wanted to know more about their traditions. I wanted to be able to find my father, and I just didn't know how to do it. As I was on my quest to find my Indian heritage, I decided to take an ancestry DNA test. A knowledge, I've been able to find out that my grandfather was a colonel in the British Army over in India, and I found out that what part of India I'm from, Punjab, and the city of Ludhiana. This is where my family and ancestry came from. I have this desire to just find out more and more about the Indian people and be able to feel connected to them. I already feel connected. My soul yearns for it. Then some friends introduced me to the Family History Guide, an amazing tool that helps with any part of family history, and all for free. This is a gold mine. I found that it is step-by-step instructions to help me find out more about my family. I have been hoping to find more information for so long. I am the perfect example of not knowing where to go and how to put all the puzzle pieces together. I did need this guide. Everything from creating my part of the family tree on Family Search and how to include both my biological and adoptive families and how to preserve memories is right there. What I'm most excited about is the countries section. I can go right to India and find information and resources to do research. I can translate the site into all major Indian languages. Even though I knew I couldn't travel to my homeland right away, the Family History Guide can virtually take me there. I can feel India in my soul. I am still on a journey. I'm on a journey to find family, relatives, and I'm excited to find more ways to connect with my Indian heritage.
Growing up in Uganda, my father used to take us to the source of the Nile. And one of the great memories I have is sitting with him on the rocks and him telling me stories about my grandparents. That to me was very unique, and I really love it. I want our children to experience the same when we go back, to be on the same rocks, seated there, and I can tell them stories about my life growing up there, my father, and their grandparents.
I think it's really important to be able to share these stories and our heritage with our children because it's who they are. Knowing the stories of where their family came from and the experiences that brought us to where we are and provided the life for them that they have, I think it's important that they know those stories and feel connected to the people who have gone before them.
It's a yearning within every single person. As you grow up, you want to be connected to your dad or your mom, your ancestors. So you want to know the unique things they ever did. As they face challenges, they can draw strength from the things we've gone through.
I'm lucky because the Polynesian culture is centered around family, so anytime that I have to learn or feel my culture, I just turn to my family. The Polynesian culture for many generations has been passed down through word of mouth and even genealogy. That has led to us being really good storytellers. When I think about all these stories that are passed down from generation to generation, I feel the value of them and I want them to be preserved forever, which is why I'm grateful for the Family History Guide, which kind of lays it out step by step for me so that I can preserve these memories that were passed down for not only myself, but for my kids and all the generations to come. I think when I hear these stories about my ancestors, immediately there's a connection. And as I feed this connection and learning more about them, there is kind of this yearning that makes me want to research them more. I want to know where they were born, where specifically did they come from. These documents now become important to me, as well as the other things. Do I have my great-grandfather's nose? The more that I research them, the more important they become to me.
Бага ахын аав маань удмын бичгээ хөтлөхийг маш их хүсдэг байсан. Гэхдээ аав маань яаж удмын бичгээ хөтлөхийг мэдэхгүй байсан л да. Тэгээ одоо би удмын бичгээ хөтлөх тийм арга хэрэгсэл олсондоо баяртай. There's a really good quote saying, "You will learn about yourself when you learn about your ancestors." As I started inputting my ancestors' information, I felt connection with them. I felt something special and I learned about them a lot as I learned about myself. When I linked my family tree with my second cousin's family tree, it was amazing because I was able to see so many people who have lived before me within my family. It was special for me. I love the free website, that Family History Guide. It is really simple to use and it's a great way to learn about genealogy as well as my country, Mongolia. And it's even cool because I can translate it to Mongolian language. I love to discover about myself through learning about my ancestors. I am really excited to learn more about them.
My name is Jonathan, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share why family history is important to me. My mother and her siblings did not have an easy life. They had a hard life. None of them knew their father, and they were subject to things that were challenging for them individually and collectively. So I had the good fortune of being invited by my mother to come and examine with her a box that she had received from a great uncle who was a Portuguese Hawaiian. In it were not just images, but there was a reel of film, and then there were negatives and film strips and other things that I would find, including amazing letters. And I was struck by all of this, but I wondered what was on that reel. When I received the video reproduction of this reel, what I saw was my grandfather for the first time. And I didn't just see my grandfather for the first time, I saw him for the first time. This wasn't a picture of him. This was him as a loving, doting father who was throwing his children up in the air. And as I continued to watch with emotion, I saw him riding on this bike. And it's hard for me to put into words the feeling that I felt as he was riding down this street with his child straddling the front handlebars on his seat as they happily laugh as they move down the street. And I was so moved because I knew that they had been robbed of knowing him. And I knew that knowing him would change their lives. But what an amazing surprise it was to find and receive this reel, and when it was uncovered, see the loving way in which he adored his children, cared for his children, played with his children. They were truly his joy. And I'm so grateful for that story. But I'm most grateful that my mother has an opportunity to know her father. This powerful experience that we had together all started in a box of photographs. I feel like I found a pot of gold, because that's exactly what it is. To me, it's priceless. We ought to be recording and documenting our stories in these technologies with the help of these resources that are available. The Family History Guide is one that will help you to illustrate how you can document your own story, but also find the stories of those who've gone before us, because that's the neat thing about our connectivity. It doesn't end when we end. It continues on well after us.